Good evening. I am background historian, and tonight's story is a gentle one. It drifts between old candlelight and newer electric glow, between voices remembered and voices still finding their place. Tonight, we are exploring modern Christmas songs and culture, and how they sit beside older traditions, not in conflict, but in quiet conversation. As the evening settles in, imagine a winter street softened by dusk. The air is cool but not sharp. Somewhere nearby, a radio hums softly. The melody is familiar, perhaps playful, perhaps sentimental. It might be a song written only a few decades ago, yet already wrapped in memory. These modern Christmas songs now feel inseparable from the season, woven into shopping aisles, car rides, family kitchens, and long drives home through glowing neighborhoods. But Christmas did not always sound this way. Long before recorded music, before radios or playlists, Christmas was carried by voices alone. Older traditions relied on carols sung in churches, in homes, and sometimes outdoors in the cold night air. These songs were slower, often solemn, shaped by faith, survival, and the rhythm of agricultural life. They spoke of waiting, of light arriving gently into darkness, of hope that did not hurry. As centuries passed, the world grew louder and faster, and Christmas learned to change with it. The 20th century introduced microphones, vinyl records, and eventually television. Christmas music stepped out of the church and into living rooms everywhere. Songs began to focus less on doctrine and more on feeling. Warmth, romance, nostalgia, the quiet ache of missing someone, the simple joy of being together. Modern Christmas songs often sparkle with humor or longing. They talk about weather, travel, heartbreak, joy, and reunion. They invite us not just to believe, but to feel. They mirror modern life, where Christmas is as much about memory and emotion as it is about tradition. And yet, the older traditions never fully leave. They remain beneath the surface, like embers under ash. You can hear them in the slower songs that pause instead of rushing, in lyrics that linger on stillness, in melodies that seem to breathe. Even the most modern holiday music often borrows the emotional structure of the past, the sense that Christmas is a moment set apart from ordinary time. Culture follows the same pattern. Older Christmas traditions centered on restraint, ritual, and community obligation. Modern culture leans toward abundance, decoration, and personal meaning. But both are reaching for the same thing: comfort, connection, a reminder that darkness does not last forever. Tonight, as we move gently forward, we will trace how Christmas learned to sing in new voices without forgetting its older ones. We will listen to how culture reshaped the season, and how the season quietly reshaped culture in return. So settle in. Let the noise of the day fade. As the lights dim and the air grows still, let us drift softly into the story of how Christmas learned to hum along with time itself. Part 1. When Christmas was carried by voices. As we move a little further into tonight's story, let us begin in a quieter place. Long before Christmas was something you could press play on, before it lived inside speakers and screens, it existed mostly in the human voice. If you close your eyes for a moment, you can almost hear it. A single melody rising in a cold room. A small group of people gathered close, not for performance, but for warmth, faith, and familiarity. In older traditions, Christmas music was not entertainment in the way we understand it now. It was participation. Songs were sung slowly, often together, and often imperfectly. Voices cracked in the cold. Harmonies wandered. But that was part of the meaning. Christmas songs were not meant to impress. They were meant to bind people together. Most early Christmas music grew out of religious life. Carols were shaped by scripture, ritual, and the rhythm of the church calendar. They focused on waiting and arrival, on darkness giving way to light. The pacing of these songs matched the world they lived in. Life moved more slowly. Winter nights were long and quiet. A song could stretch without urgency, filling a space where time itself felt softened. These older carols also reflected a world where Christmas was not a season of excess. It was a pause. Food was special because it was scarce. Light was meaningful because darkness was real. Music echoed through stone churches or wooden homes where silence already lived. Singing was not constant. It was intentional. Outside of formal worship, Christmas music often traveled door to door. Carolers carried songs through villages, offering blessings in exchange for warmth, food, or goodwill. The music belonged to the moment, not to an object. Once sung, it faded into memory, lingering only in those who had heard it. This is important to remember. For much of history, Christmas music could not be replayed. It lived once, then vanished. That gave it weight. Each song felt precious because it could not be summoned on demand. If you missed it, you missed it. As societies slowly changed, so did the way Christmas sounded. Literacy spread. Printing made sheet music more accessible. Songs could now travel farther than a single voice could carry them. Still, the spirit remained largely communal. Families sang together in parlors. Churches filled with layered harmonies. Even then, Christmas music was still something you made, not something you consumed. The shift began gently. Instruments became more common. Pianos entered homes. Songs grew slightly more elaborate, slightly more polished. But they still belonged to shared spaces. A song was something you prepared for, practiced, and offered. Then came the modern world, arriving quietly at first, then all at once. With the invention of recording technology, Christmas music gained permanence. A voice could now be captured, preserved, and replayed endlessly. This was revolutionary. For the first time, Christmas songs could belong to someone else, somewhere else, and still fill your home. At first, recordings felt like a miracle. They allowed people to hear music they could never have accessed otherwise. Famous voices entered ordinary living rooms. Christmas became something you could listen to even if you were alone. And loneliness, as it turned out, would become one of the defining emotions of modern Christmas. As cities grew and families scattered, the season changed. Christmas songs began to reflect longing as much as joy. Older carols focused on divine arrival and communal hope. Newer songs spoke about missing someone, traveling long distances, or wishing for togetherness that felt just out of reach. This was not a loss. It was a reflection. Modern Christmas music did not erase tradition. It translated it. The language shifted from shared ritual to shared emotion. Instead of singing together, people listened together. Or listened alone, imagining others doing the same. The culture around Christmas evolved in parallel. Older traditions emphasized restraint, reverence, and predictability. Modern culture embraced decoration, abundance, and personalization. Christmas became something you curated. Your playlist. Your traditions. Your memories. Music followed this pattern closely. songs became more varied in tone. Some were playful, some romantic, some openly melancholic. Christmas no longer demanded a single emotional response. It made room for many. Yet even as Christmas music modernized, it continued to borrow from the past. Many modern songs move slowly, linger on soft moments, or return to simple imagery. Snow, light, home. These are not new ideas. They are echoes. Listen closely and you can hear how the old and the new intertwine. A modern song might mention traffic instead of shepherds, but the emotional structure is the same. Waiting, hoping, remembering, holding on. What changed most was not the heart of Christmas music, but its delivery. The voice that once needed a room now needed only a speaker. The song that once lived briefly could now loop endlessly. Christmas music became ambient. It filled spaces whether we asked it to or not. This constant presence softened the season in some ways and diluted it in others. When a song is always available, it loses some of its urgency. But it also gains companionship. A modern Christmas song can sit quietly in the background of daily life, offering comfort without demanding attention. And perhaps that is what modern Christmas culture truly reflects. A world that is busy, distracted, and often overwhelmed, still reaching for moments of calm. Still longing for the feeling those older songs once carried through cold air and candlelight. As this part of our story settles, hold on to that image. A single voice in a quiet room. A song meant to be shared, not stored. In the next part, we will follow Christmas music as it steps fully into the modern age, carried not by footsteps through snow, but by airwaves, screens, and memory itself. For now, let the echoes fade gently, and rest in the stillness they leave behind. Part 2. When Christmas learned to travel through air. As the hush of the previous moment lingers, let us drift gently onward into the next chapter of Christmas's changing voice. The world is growing faster now, though it does not yet realize how much. Streets are brighter. Homes are closer together. And somewhere, unseen and unheard until it arrives, sound begins to travel without footsteps. The early 20th century brought with it a quiet revolution. Radios entered homes, often as large wooden pieces of furniture, warm to the touch and humming softly even when silent. Families gathered around them the way earlier generations gathered around hearths. When Christmas music came through those speakers for the first time, it felt almost magical. A voice, distant yet intimate, crossing miles of darkness to arrive just in time for the season. This was the moment Christmas music stopped belonging only to those who could sing it. Older traditions had required presence. You had to be there. You had to lift your voice, or at least sit close enough to hear another's breath between verses. Radio changed this. Now Christmas songs could be received passively, wrapped in static and wonder, entering homes that might otherwise be silent. At first, the songs themselves were not so different. Many early radio broadcasts featured familiar carols, hymns, and choral arrangements. The tone remained reverent, measured, and calm. But the experience had shifted. Music was no longer something you made together. It was something you tuned into. This subtle change reshaped Christmas culture more than anyone expected. Listening required less effort than singing. You did not need to know the words. You did not need confidence. You only needed to be present. Christmas music began to fill space automatically. It could accompany cooking, decorating, or quiet evenings without demanding participation. For many, this was comforting. For others, it felt like a loss they could not quite name. As radio programming expanded, so did the emotional range of Christmas music. Broadcasters noticed something important. People responded strongly to songs that felt personal. Songs that told stories. Songs that sounded like conversations rather than proclamations. This is when Christmas music began to turn inward. Instead of focusing only on the birth story or sacred imagery, newer songs reflected modern lives. They spoke of families separated by distance, of soldiers overseas, of letters written and waited for. Christmas became a moment of reflection as much as celebration. This mirrored broader cultural changes. Industrialization had pulled people away from villages and into cities. Work schedules became rigid. Travel became possible but complicated. Christmas was often the only time people paused long enough to feel what they had been carrying all year. Music absorbed that feeling. A Christmas song could now be a place to rest. It could hold sadness without resolving it. It could acknowledge loneliness without fixing it. This was new. Older traditions often emphasized reassurance. Modern songs allowed uncertainty to sit quietly beside hope. As recordings improved and vinyl records became more common, Christmas music gained texture. Voices sounded closer. Orchestras swelled gently. Songs were arranged to feel warm and enveloping, like sound itself was meant to replace missing company. Owning Christmas music became possible. A record could be played year after year, becoming part of a family's private ritual. Certain songs became linked not just to the season, but to specific memories. A particular kitchen. A certain winter. Someone who was there once and now was not. This is when Christmas music began to age alongside people. Unlike older carols, which felt timeless and unchanged, modern Christmas songs could grow old with you. A song released in one decade could carry the mood of that era forever. Listening later became an act of time travel. You were not just hearing Christmas. You were hearing who you used to be. Culture responded quickly. Stores played music to soften crowds. Offices used it to signal the approaching end of the year. Streets and public spaces filled with sound meant to encourage spending, movement, and cheer. Christmas music became functional as well as emotional. Yet even in these public uses, something gentle remained. Christmas songs still slowed people down. Even the liveliest tunes created a sense of exception. This time is different. This moment is marked. The idea of the Christmas season itself expanded. Older traditions had focused on specific holy days. Modern culture stretched Christmas into weeks, sometimes months. Music led the way. The first song on the radio signaled that it was time. The last song in January quietly closed the door. This extended season allowed Christmas music to seep deeper into daily life. It became background, atmosphere, an emotional cue all at once. You might not even notice it consciously, yet your body responded. Shoulders relaxed. Memory stirred. The pace shifted just slightly. Not everyone welcomed this change. Some missed the quiet intensity of older traditions. Others felt overwhelmed by repetition, by songs looping endlessly until their meaning thinned. A song heard too often risks becoming invisible. And yet, even repetition has its own comfort. Hearing the same songs each year reassures us that some things endure. that no matter how much changes, certain melodies will return. Christmas music became a form of continuity in a world that increasingly felt unstable. By the mid-20th century, Christmas culture had fully embraced this new relationship with music. The season was now shaped as much by sound as by sight. Lights and decorations mattered, but music set the emotional temperature. What is remarkable is how gently this transformation happened. There was no single moment when older traditions ended and modern ones began. Instead, Christmas music simply learned to travel farther, reach more people, and hold more feelings. As this part of our story draws to a soft close, imagine a radio glowing quietly in a dark room. Outside, winter presses against the windows. Inside, a song drifts through the air, carrying with it not just melody, but memory, longing, and a sense of shared time. In the next part, we will step into the age when Christmas music became deeply personal, shaped by individual voices, celebrity, and the idea that a single song could define the season for generations. For now, let the sound fade gently into silence, and rest in the warmth it leaves behind. Part 3. When Christmas found its modern voice. Let us continue, slowly and quietly, into the next chapter of the season's unfolding story. The world outside is brighter now, even in winter. Streets glow longer into the evening. Homes hum with electricity. And Christmas music, no longer a novelty, has become a familiar companion, waiting patiently each year to return. By the middle of the 20th century, something subtle but powerful occurred. Christmas music began to sound unmistakably modern. Not just in the way it was recorded, but in the way it spoke. The season found a new kind of voice, one that felt conversational, intimate, and unmistakably human. This was the era when individual performers began to shape Christmas itself. Earlier traditions had emphasized the song over the singer. Carols belonged to everyone. No one voice mattered more than another. But modern culture was learning to celebrate personality. Film, radio, and television introduced the idea of the star, and Christmas music followed. When a well-known singer released a Christmas song, it carried their voice, their style, their emotional weight. The song became inseparable from the person who sang it. Christmas, once shared anonymously, now had recognizable narrators. This changed how people listened. A Christmas song could now feel like a personal message. The singer sounded close, almost present in the room. Breath, phrasing, and emotion mattered. These songs did not ask you to join in. They asked you to listen. And listening became an act of feeling. Modern Christmas songs leaned heavily into intimacy. They spoke about home, longing, reunion, and memory in ways that mirrored post-war life. Families were growing, but also dispersing. Travel was more common. Absence became a familiar part of celebration. Music gave that absence a voice. Many songs from this period carry a gentle ache. They are not sad, but they are aware. They acknowledge that Christmas can be complicated. That joy often sits beside longing. This emotional honesty was new and deeply resonant. At the same time, lighter songs emerged, playful and warm, filled with humor and seasonal imagery. They offered relief from seriousness. They reminded listeners that Christmas could also be simple and fun. Together, these tones created balance. The season became emotionally spacious. You could feel many things at once. Technology continued to shape this evolution. High-quality recordings made voices sound rich and close. Orchestration grew smoother, designed to wrap around the listener rather than impress them. Christmas music became something you could sink into. Culturally, this mirrored a growing emphasis on comfort. Homes became more private. Living rooms replaced community halls as the center of celebration. Christmas shifted inward, becoming something experienced deeply within personal space. Music followed suit. A Christmas record spinning softly in the background could transform a room. It turned ordinary moments into seasonal ones. Folding laundry, preparing food, or sitting quietly after a long day could all become part of Christmas simply through sound. This is also when repetition became ritual. Hearing the same singer, the same arrangement, year after year created familiarity. These songs became emotional anchors. No matter how much life changed, certain Christmas songs stayed the same. They returned faithfully, like old friends who never asked questions. Older traditions had relied on memory passed through generations. Modern Christmas music created memory through consistency. The song did not change. You did. And as you changed, the song changed its meaning. A tune heard as a child felt magical. As an adult, it might feel nostalgic. Later still, it might feel tender or bittersweet. The song remained constant, but your relationship to it deepened. This is one of the quiet powers of modern Christmas music. It grows alongside you. It carries layers of time within it. Listening becomes not just seasonal, but reflective. Culture embraced this deeply. Christmas albums became expected. Television specials paired music with story. The season developed a soundtrack that played the same role every year. It told people, without words, that it was time to slow down and feel. Yet even as modern Christmas music flourished, it never fully abandoned its roots. Many songs borrowed imagery from older traditions. Snow, stars, quiet nights, and waiting remained central. The language changed, but the symbols endured. This continuity kept Christmas anchored. No matter how modern the song sounded, it still reached back toward something older. Something steady. As we let this part of the story settle, imagine a softly lit room. Outside, winter moves gently through the night. Inside, a familiar voice sings a song you have heard many times before. It feels both new and old at once. In the next part, we will explore how Christmas music expanded even further, becoming a cultural language shared across movies, commercials, and public spaces, shaping not just how we celebrate, but how we recognize the season itself. For now, let the music linger quietly, and allow yourself to rest within its familiar embrace. Part 4. When Christmas became a shared soundscape. Let us drift onward, gently and without hurry, into the next layer of the season. By now, Christmas music is no longer something you seek out intentionally. It finds you. It meets you in places you did not expect, at moments you did not plan. And in doing so, it quietly reshapes how the season feels. This is the moment when Christmas becomes a shared soundscape. As the 20th century moved forward, Christmas music stepped fully into public life. It flowed out of radios and records and into stores, offices, sidewalks, and screens. You could not always choose it, but you could not easily escape it either. The season announced itself through sound. Older traditions had kept Christmas largely contained. It belonged to churches, homes, and specific days on the calendar. Modern culture dissolved those boundaries. Christmas spread outward, filling weeks with familiar melodies that signaled exception and pause. Music became the season's most reliable marker. Long before decorations appeared or gifts were wrapped, a single song on the radio could shift perception. This is Christmas time now. Something different is happening. Even without conscious thought, people adjusted. They slowed their pace. They felt memory rise. They braced themselves for emotion. Public spaces adopted Christmas music for practical reasons. Stores used it to soften crowds and encourage lingering. Offices used it to mark the approaching end of the year. Films used it to establish warmth, nostalgia, or contrast. Over time, these uses layered meaning onto the music itself. A song no longer belonged only to the singer or the listener. It belonged to a moment, a setting, a shared experience. Walking into a store during December, hearing the same melody you heard elsewhere, created a sense of collective time. Everyone was in the same season together, even if they felt it differently. This collective presence was powerful. For some, it brought comfort. For others, it brought exhaustion. Hearing the same songs repeatedly could dull their emotional edge. What once felt special could become routine. Familiarity, when constant, risks becoming background noise. And yet, background does not mean meaningless. Christmas music, even when unnoticed, still works quietly. It alters atmosphere. It smooths edges. It invites reflection without asking permission. A song you barely register can still loosen a tight chest or soften a hurried step. This is where modern Christmas culture becomes complex. The season now holds both intimacy and spectacle. Music that once carried personal meaning is now also commercial, functional, and omnipresent. A song meant to evoke warmth might play while people rush, argue, or feel disconnected. But even in this contradiction, something essential remains. Christmas music continues to slow time, even briefly. It reminds people, again and again, that this moment is different. That the year is turning. That memory matters. Cinema and television amplified this effect. Films taught audiences what Christmas should sound like. A single chord or melody could instantly establish mood. Snow falling. Lights glowing. Someone returning home. Music became emotional shorthand. Over time, these associations became deeply ingrained. Hearing certain songs could summon entire scenes, even without visuals. Music alone could create a narrative. This shaped how people imagined Christmas. Expectations formed around sound as much as tradition. A quiet Christmas without music could feel incomplete, even if it was peaceful. Yet older traditions still whispered beneath the surface. Churches continued to sing. Families still gathered to share familiar carols. Private moments resisted the noise of public spaces. Many people began to create boundaries. Certain songs belonged to the car, others to the kitchen, some only to late-night listening when the world grew still again. In this way, modern Christmas culture became layered. Public sound and private sound coexisted. One was shared by many. The other remained personal. This layering allowed people to reclaim meaning within abundance. Even surrounded by constant music, individuals could choose which songs mattered most. They could build quiet rituals inside a noisy season. As this part of our story settles, imagine stepping out of a crowded place into the night. The music fades behind you. Snow or cool air softens the world. Somewhere, faint and distant, a familiar melody still lingers. In the next part, we will explore how modern Christmas songs began to blend nostalgia with reinvention, creating music that feels both old and new at once. For now, let the shared sounds dissolve gently and rest in the quieter space they reveal. Part 5. When nostalgia learned to wear new clothes. Let us move softly onward into a part of the story where time begins to fold in on itself. By now, Christmas music is not only modern, but reflective. It looks backward even as it moves forward. It learns how to feel old without being ancient, familiar without being forgotten. This is the moment when nostalgia becomes one of Christmas's strongest voices. Earlier traditions did not think of themselves as nostalgic. They were simply present. They belonged to the moment they were lived in. But modern Christmas culture, surrounded by rapid change, began to long for steadiness. Music became a way to reach for something that felt safe, remembered, and unchanging. Interestingly, many of the songs that now feel timeless were once new. A song written in one decade slowly gathered memory as it passed through others. It was played during childhoods, then during early adulthood, then later during quieter years. Over time, the song absorbed life. It became layered with personal history. This is how modern Christmas music learned to feel old without actually being old. Artists and composers began to understand this power. New Christmas songs were often written to sound familiar. They borrowed older melodies, gentle pacing, and imagery that echoed the past. Bells, snowfall, quiet streets, warm light in dark windows. Even when the lyrics spoke about modern life, traffic, telephones, travel, the emotional landscape remained rooted in older ideas. Waiting, return, togetherness, stillness. This blending created a unique effect. A new song could immediately feel like it belonged. It slipped easily into the season, sitting beside much older music without conflict. Time blurred. Culture embraced this warmly. People did not want Christmas to feel entirely new. They wanted it to feel remembered, even if the memory was imagined. Nostalgia offered comfort by suggesting continuity. Things change, but not completely. Some feelings remain. This longing shaped how Christmas was presented everywhere. Decorations mimicked earlier eras. Films set stories in idealized pasts. Music followed suit, creating a sound that felt gently removed from the present. Christmas became a season slightly out of time. Modern songs often avoided specific years or trends. They aimed for emotional universality. The goal was not to capture a moment, but to suspend it. To create something that could return every year without aging. This is why many Christmas songs resist specificity. They rarely mention exact dates, current events, or contemporary slang. Instead, they focus on sensations. Cold air, warm rooms, familiar faces. These experiences do not belong to any single generation. Older traditions had done this naturally. Modern ones learned to do it intentionally. At the same time, nostalgia began to change how people experience the present. Christmas music encouraged reflection. Listening often triggered memory before awareness. A song could pull someone backward without warning. Suddenly, they were not just in this December, but in another one too. This layering of time became central to modern Christmas culture. You could be standing in your current life while emotionally revisiting a different version of yourself. Music made this possible quietly and effortlessly. No deliberate remembering required. For some, this was soothing. For others, it was bittersweet. Nostalgia rarely arrives alone. It brings gratitude and loss together. It reminds us of what has been loved and what has changed. Modern Christmas songs allowed space for this complexity. They did not insist on constant cheer. They acknowledged tenderness. They gave listeners permission to feel softly, even when joy felt complicated. This emotional honesty marked a shift from earlier traditions that emphasized reassurance and certainty. Modern culture accepted ambiguity. Christmas could be gentle without being triumphant. The season became less about perfection and more about presence. Music reflected this by slowing down. Many modern Christmas songs linger. They leave pauses. They breathe. Silence becomes part of the arrangement. These choices invite listening rather than consumption. In a world that moves quickly, Christmas music offers a counter-rhythm. This is perhaps why nostalgia remains so powerful within it. It resists urgency. It asks you to stay, to remember, to feel without resolving everything. As the decades continued, nostalgia became layered itself. Songs from different eras now coexist, each carrying their own emotional weight. A song from one period feels different than one from another, even if both are familiar. People build personal timelines through music. Their Christmas soundtrack becomes a record of their life, marked not by dates, but by feeling. Older traditions pass memory through story and ritual. Modern Christmas music passes it through repetition and sound. Both serve the same purpose: to remind us who we are and who we have been. As this part of our story gently settles, imagine a song playing softly, one you have heard many times. You may not think of it as old or new. It simply feels like Christmas. In the next part, we will explore how this nostalgia interacts with reinvention, how artists continue to reshape the season while honoring its emotional core. For now, let the music drift quietly, and allow the past and present to rest together, unhurried and at ease. Part 6. When reinvention became part of the tradition. Let us continue onward, at the same unhurried pace, into a part of the story where Christmas learned something new about itself. By now, the season is rich with memory. Songs carry weight. Traditions feel established. And yet, change continues to arrive, quietly and persistently, asking to be included. This is when reinvention becomes not a disruption, but an expectation. Older Christmas traditions changed slowly. A carol might evolve over centuries, shaped by language and place. Modern Christmas music, however, exists in a world where creativity moves quickly. New voices emerge constantly. Styles shift. Technology invites experimentation. Christmas must learn how to adapt without losing itself. Artists begin to approach Christmas not as something fixed, but as something flexible. A familiar melody can be reimagined. A traditional carol can be slowed, softened, or rearranged. A modern song can be covered in a new style, revealing emotions that were always there but previously unknown. Part 7. When Christmas became a personal ritual. Let us move gently onward, into a quieter and more inward place. By this point in the story, Christmas music has learned how to travel, how to remember, and how to reinvent itself. Now it learns something even more intimate. It learns how to belong to individuals. This is when Christmas becomes personal. Older traditions relied on shared rules. Certain songs were sung. Certain days were marked. Participation followed expectation. But modern culture, shaped by choice and flexibility, invites people to shape the season themselves. Music becomes one of the easiest ways to do this. A person may not control the public decorations or the cultural calendar, but they can choose what plays in their own space. A single song can define the tone of an evening. A playlist can create a mood that feels right, even if the world outside feels busy or loud. Christmas music becomes a form of self-expression. Some people reach for traditional carols when they want grounding. Others choose modern songs that reflect their current emotions. Some mix both, allowing the old and new to speak together. There is no single correct sound for Christmas anymore. This freedom changes how the season is experienced. Music becomes ritual, not obligation. A certain song might be played while decorating a tree, another while cooking, another only late at night, when the house is quiet and the day has settled. These choices repeat year after year, forming patterns that feel meaningful. Over time, the music itself becomes part of the memory. Hearing a song can recall not just Christmas in general, but a specific moment, a certain room, a particular person, a feeling that lived there once. This personalization makes Christmas music deeply powerful. It also makes the season more emotionally honest. People no longer have to perform cheer if they do not feel it. They can choose music that matches their mood. Quiet songs for quiet years. Lighter ones for lighter times. Christmas culture adapts to this inward turn. Traditions become flexible. Some rituals are kept. Others are gently released. Music helps signal which parts matter most. The season becomes less about doing everything correctly and more about creating something that feels right. This shift reflects broader changes in how people approach meaning. Authority gives way to authenticity. Christmas is no longer something handed down intact. It is something assembled with care. Music guides that assembly. Even within families, Christmas soundtracks can differ. Each person carries their own relationship with the season. Music allows those differences to coexist without conflict. One song can mean comfort to one person and nostalgia to another. This coexistence is one of modern Christmas culture's quiet strengths. Yet, even as Christmas becomes personal, it does not lose its shared nature entirely. Many people still return to familiar songs because they connect them to others. Music becomes a bridge between private feeling and collective memory. A song played in one home is also being played in countless others. This creates a subtle sense of togetherness. Even when alone, a listener can feel part of something larger. This balance between solitude and connection defines modern Christmas. Technology enhances this further. Streaming platforms make nearly every version of every song available. People can explore, compare, and discover. Christmas music becomes a landscape rather than a fixed list. This abundance invites curiosity. It also invites reflection. Listening becomes an act of choosing, not just receiving. The season slows in response. People build moments around sound. They pause. They sit. They listen. Even briefly, the world softens. As this part of the story settles, imagine yourself choosing a single song. not because it is popular, but because it feels right. It plays quietly, filling the space without overwhelming it. In the next part, we will explore how this personalization interacts with family, memory, and the way Christmas music passes gently from one generation to the next. For now, rest in the quiet satisfaction of a ritual chosen for yourself, and let the music hold you there a little while longer. Part 8. When Christmas music became an inheritance. Let us drift onward, softly and without urgency, into a part of the story where time stretches across generations. Christmas music, now deeply personal, does not stay contained within a single life. It moves gently outward, carried from one person to another, becoming something quietly inherited. This is when Christmas music becomes memory passed along. Older traditions relied on direct teaching. Songs were learned by singing alongside elders. The melody and meaning arrived together, shaped by shared presence. Modern Christmas culture inherits differently. Music is absorbed gradually, often without instruction. A child hears a song each year without realizing it is becoming part of them. The song plays in the background while other things happen. Gifts are wrapped. Food is prepared. Conversations drift. The music does not demand attention, but it settles into memory all the same. Years later, that same song can stir something deep and unexpected. This is how inheritance works now. Not through formal passing, but through repetition and association. Christmas music becomes tied to feelings rather than lessons. Parents, intentionally or not, curate this inheritance. The songs they choose, the ones they return to, shape how the season will feel for the next generation. A particular artist's voice might become synonymous with warmth and safety. Another song might forever suggest excitement or comfort. These associations form quietly. Even songs that were modern once become traditional through time. A song released decades ago can feel just as essential as older carols. For a younger listener, there is no distinction. It has always been there. This blurring of old and new defines modern Christmas culture. Children grow up assuming that Christmas sounds a certain way. Later, when they encounter different interpretations, they feel the contrast. Their own inherited soundtrack feels personal and correct, even if others differ. This is not conflict. It is continuity. Music allows each generation to feel ownership of the season while still sharing it with others. A grandparent's favorite song may not be a carol at all. It may be a recording from their youth. Passing it along becomes a way of sharing themselves. Christmas music becomes biography. This inheritance is not static. Each generation adds to it. New songs enter the rotation. Others fade gently away. The soundtrack evolves, reflecting changing lives and values. Yet, certain emotional tones remain constant. Warmth. Reflection. Togetherness. Even when the sounds change, the purpose does not. Modern Christmas culture allows this layering to happen naturally. There is no strict preservation. Songs are kept because they matter, not because they must. This makes inheritance feel alive. Technology plays a role here as well. Recordings preserve voices long after the singer is gone. A song can carry the sound of someone who once mattered deeply. Listening becomes a way of staying connected. This can be comforting. It can also be tender. Christmas music often carries grief alongside joy. It allows memory to surface without explanation. Older traditions sometimes struggle to hold this complexity. Modern music welcomes it quietly. The season becomes a space where remembering is allowed, where absence is acknowledged without needing resolution. Music holds what words might struggle to say. As families gather or remain apart, shared songs create invisible threads. Knowing that others are hearing the same melodies at the same time can soften distance. Music becomes a shared calendar, marking time together even when apart. This sense of shared inheritance is subtle but powerful. As this part of the story settles, imagine a song that reminds you of someone else. Perhaps you do not even remember when you first heard it. It has simply always been part of Christmas. In the next part, we will explore how this inherited music interacts with change, how the season adapts as families shift, grow, and redefine what togetherness means. For now, let the song linger softly, carrying memory forward, unbroken and gentle. Part 9. When togetherness took new shapes. Let us move onward, gently and without rush, into a part of the story shaped by movement and change. By now, Christmas music carries memory across generations. It feels inherited, familiar, and deeply rooted. And yet, the lives it accompanies are no longer as fixed as they once were. Togetherness, like the music itself, begins to change shape. Older Christmas traditions assumed proximity. Families lived closer. Travel was limited. Togetherness meant physical presence, often in the same rooms year after year. Music echoed through shared spaces, reinforcing closeness simply by being heard together. Modern life loosens these structures. Families spread across cities, states, and countries. Work schedules vary. Traditions must bend. Christmas becomes less predictable, more improvised. Music adapts to this fluidity. A Christmas song no longer assumes everyone is in the same place. Instead, it acknowledges distance, travel, waiting, reunion that may or may not happen on the exact day. Many modern Christmas songs reflect this quietly. They speak of coming home, hoping to, or remembering what home once felt like. The idea of togetherness shifts from certainty to intention. Music becomes a bridge. Listening to the same songs, even apart, creates a sense of shared time. A person driving alone on a long winter road may hear a familiar melody and imagine others hearing it too. The season feels collective even when lived separately. Technology strengthens this connection. Phones, messages, and digital spaces allow music to be shared instantly. A song can be sent as a gesture. This made me think of you. Christmas music becomes communication. This would have been unimaginable in earlier eras. Culture responds by redefining what counts as togetherness. It is no longer limited to shared tables or synchronized rituals. Emotional presence matters as much as physical presence. Music supports this shift by carrying feeling across space. Even within households, togetherness looks different. People bring varied schedules, interests, and emotional needs into the season. Christmas music allows parallel experiences. One person listens quietly. Another hums along. Another lets it fade into the background. All are participating, in their own way. This flexibility makes modern Christmas culture more accommodating. It allows people to engage at different depths without exclusion. Music does not demand uniformity. Yet, it still invites connection. A shared song can become a meeting place. It holds multiple experiences at once. One person may hear joy. Another hears memory. Another hears comfort. The song contains them all. This is a subtle but profound evolution. Older traditions often emphasized unity through sameness. Modern culture finds unity through overlap. Shared feeling, not identical action. Christmas music models this beautifully. It does not insist on one correct way to listen. It allows people to bring their own meaning and take what they need. The season becomes gentler as a result. Even public expressions of Christmas reflect this shift. Large gatherings may be replaced or supplemented by smaller moments. Music plays quietly in cars, headphones, or late at night. Togetherness becomes distributed rather than concentrated. This can feel lonely at times. Modern Christmas songs do not ignore this. They acknowledge quiet rooms and empty chairs. But they also offer reassurance. Feeling alone does not mean being disconnected. Music keeps the line open. As this part of our story settles, imagine a familiar Christmas song playing somewhere far away. You cannot hear it, but you know it is there. That knowledge brings a small sense of connection. In the next part, we will explore how Christmas music balances this new understanding of togetherness with the desire for celebration, joy, and communal release. For now, rest in the gentle truth that connection does not always require closeness, and let the music carry you softly between places. Part 10. When celebration learned to share space with quiet. Let us continue, softly and without hurry, into a part of the story where Christmas learns balance. By now, the season holds many truths at once. It carries memory and distance, individuality and inheritance. And still, it remains a time of celebration. But celebration itself has changed. Older Christmas traditions often emphasized collective joy expressed outwardly. Singing together, feasting, marking the day with visible, shared ritual. Celebration was something you did together, in full view. Modern Christmas culture learns to hold celebration alongside stillness. Music reflects this shift clearly. Alongside lively songs meant to energize and lift, there exists an equally important body of quieter music. Songs that do not urge movement, but invite rest. They do not build toward a chorus meant to be shouted. They linger instead. This coexistence is intentional. Modern life is often loud and demanding. The end of the year carries fatigue as much as anticipation. Christmas music begins to serve two purposes. It can energize or soothe, depending on what is needed. Celebration becomes flexible. Some moments call for brightness. Decorating, cooking, gathering. Music fills the space and carries excitement. In other moments, especially late at night or early in the morning, music softens. It becomes a companion rather than a driver. This duality allows the season to breathe. Culture mirrors this balance. Christmas is no longer experienced as a single emotional note. It is a spectrum. There is joy, but also reflection. Excitement, but also release. Music makes room for this range without explanation. A person can celebrate quietly now. They can sit with a song and feel content without needing to perform happiness. This is a meaningful evolution. It acknowledges that joy does not always look the same. Modern Christmas songs often express this understanding. Even upbeat songs may contain moments of pause. Even quieter songs may carry warmth. Celebration becomes layered. This layering is especially important in families and communities where not everyone experiences the season the same way. Music allows shared space without forcing shared emotion. One person may dance. Another may listen. Both are welcome. This gentle inclusivity reshapes Christmas culture. Celebration becomes less about volume and more about presence. Music helps anchor that presence. It signals that this moment matters, even if it is quiet. Public spaces adapt as well. Music still fills stores and streets, but many people now seek out quieter versions. Instrumental arrangements. Slower tempos. Softer sounds. The season responds to the need for calm. This does not mean that exuberance disappears. It simply becomes one option among many. The ability to choose how to celebrate is central to modern Christmas. Music empowers that choice. It offers different emotional doors into the same season. This flexibility also supports healing. For those carrying grief or fatigue, quiet celebration can be more accessible. Music becomes a safe place to land. Older traditions often framed Christmas as triumphant. Modern culture allows it to be gentle. As this part of our story settles, imagine a room filled with soft light. Outside, the world continues at its pace. Inside, a song plays quietly. It does not demand anything. It simply holds the moment. In the next part, we will explore how Christmas music and culture interact with commerce and expectation, and how the season learns to protect its quieter meanings within a busy world. For now, let celebration rest beside stillness, and allow yourself to enjoy both, unhurried and at ease. Part 11. When the season learned to carry expectation. Let us drift onward, gently and with care, into a part of the story where Christmas begins to feel heavier, not in spirit, but in weight. By now, the season holds joy and quiet, celebration and reflection. Yet alongside these feelings, something else has grown steadily over time. Expectation. Older Christmas traditions carried expectations too, but they were narrow and predictable. Attend the service. Prepare the meal. Sing the familiar songs. The boundaries were clear. Modern Christmas culture, shaped by abundance and visibility, multiplies expectation in every direction. Music plays a quiet role in this. Certain songs now signal what Christmas should feel like. Cheerful. Warm. Complete. Hearing them repeatedly can create a subtle pressure. This is how the season sounds. This is how you are meant to feel. For many, this expectation is comforting. It offers guidance. It tells the body and mind that it is safe to relax into familiar rhythms. But for others, it can feel mismatched. The music is joyful, while the listener feels tired, uncertain, or overwhelmed. Modern Christmas culture becomes aware of this tension. Songs begin to acknowledge it directly. Some lyrics speak of stress, chaos, or emotional exhaustion beneath the decorations. Others soften expectations by slowing down, reminding listeners that it is enough to simply be present. Music becomes a mirror rather than a command. This shift reflects a broader cultural awareness. Christmas no longer insists on perfection as strongly as it once did. The idealized images remain, but they are increasingly questioned. Music offers permission to step back from them. Expectation also comes from comparison. Modern media exposes people to countless versions of Christmas. Other homes. Other traditions. Other soundtracks. Music travels easily across these images, reinforcing the sense that Christmas is a performance to be measured. Yet music also offers relief from this comparison. A song heard privately can disconnect someone from the noise of expectation. It creates a small, personal space where the season feels manageable again. The right song can narrow the focus from everything Christmas is supposed to be to what it is in this moment. This is one of modern Christmas music's quiet gifts. It allows people to opt out, even briefly, to choose a version of the season that fits their capacity. Expectation also shapes time. Christmas now stretches long before and after its central days. Music marks this extended season. The first song signals preparation. The last signals release. This prolonged anticipation can be joyful, but it can also be tiring. Music adapts by offering pacing. Not every song pushes excitement. Many encourage patience. They slow the build-up. Older traditions used ritual to pace expectation. Modern culture uses sound. Music helps distribute emotional energy across the season. It prevents everything from peaking at once. It reminds people that Christmas is not a single moment to be perfected, but a gradual experience. This understanding softens the pressure. As this part of our story settles, imagine a familiar Christmas song playing softly, not loudly enough to command attention. It does not tell you how to feel. It simply accompanies you where you are. In the next part, we will explore how modern Christmas culture begins to question itself, using music to gently critique excess while still holding on to warmth and meaning. For now, let expectation loosen its grip and rest in the quiet permission to experience the season at your own pace. Part 12. When Christmas began to gently question itself. Let us continue onward, softly and thoughtfully, into a part of the story where the season turns its gaze inward. By now, Christmas is rich with music, memory, expectation, and meaning. Unlike anything that grows large and familiar, it begins to ask quiet questions about itself. Not loudly, not in protest, but gently. Modern Christmas culture reaches a point where abundance becomes impossible to ignore. Decorations arrive earlier. Music plays longer. Traditions multiply. And somewhere within all of this, a subtle unease appears. Is something being lost beneath the noise? Music becomes one of the first places this question is voiced. Some modern Christmas songs step back from celebration and observe it instead. They notice the rush, the excess, the pressure. They do not condemn it outright. They simply name it. In doing so, they offer listeners a moment of recognition. You are not imagining this. The season can be heavy. This self-awareness is new. Older traditions rarely questioned themselves. They were anchored in ritual and belief. Modern Christmas, shaped by choice and reflection, allows room for critique without rejection. Music carries this critique softly. Lyrics may reference crowded stores, emotional strain, or the longing for something simpler. The tone is rarely angry. It is wistful. It wonders what Christmas might feel like if it slowed down again. This wondering resonates deeply in a world that moves quickly. Listeners recognize themselves in these songs. They feel seen rather than instructed. Christmas music becomes less about telling people what the season is, and more about asking what it could be. This shift marks a cultural maturation. The season no longer needs to present itself as flawless. It can hold contradiction. It can acknowledge that joy and exhaustion often arrive together. Music becomes a safe place for that complexity. At the same time, many songs respond to excess by turning inward. They focus on small moments. A quiet night. A single candle. A shared glance. These images counterbalance the larger spectacle. Christmas begins to value intimacy again. This is not a return to older traditions exactly. It is a reinterpretation of their spirit. The emphasis is no longer on ritual obligation, but on mindful presence. Music supports this by stripping back. Arrangements become simpler. Vocals are closer. Silence is allowed between phrases. The listener is invited to lean in rather than be swept along. Culturally, this reflects a broader desire for meaning over accumulation. Christmas becomes an opportunity to choose depth instead of breadth. Music models this choice gently. Even songs that remain cheerful often carry an undercurrent of awareness. Celebration is offered, but not demanded. Enjoyment is invited, but not forced. This creates space. The questioning of Christmas does not weaken it. It refines it. By acknowledging its own excesses, the season protects what matters most. Music becomes a tool of preservation rather than distraction. As this part of our story settles, imagine a quiet Christmas song that feels reflective rather than festive. It does not deny the season. It simply looks at it with honesty and care. In the next part, we will explore how this self-awareness leads to a renewed appreciation for simplicity, and how Christmas music helps people rediscover meaning in small, unremarkable moments. For now, let the questions rest gently. They are not meant to unsettle, but to guide. Let the music hold them softly, and allow yourself to breathe within their calm. Part 13. When simplicity returned as a choice. Let us drift onward, unhurried and calm, into a part of the story where Christmas begins to feel lighter again. After questioning itself, after acknowledging excess and expectation, the season does not collapse or retreat. Instead, it chooses something quieter. Simplicity. Older Christmas traditions were simple by necessity. Resources were limited. Time moved slowly. Modern Christmas, surrounded by abundance, arrives at simplicity differently. It chooses it intentionally. Music plays a central role in this return. Many modern Christmas songs step away from grand production. They favor gentle melodies, minimal instrumentation, and honest vocals. The effect is intimate. The listener feels close to the sound, as if the song exists only in this moment. This simplicity does not feel sparse. It feels focused. The music draws attention to what remains when everything else falls away. Breath. Tone. Emotion. A single line repeated softly can carry more meaning than a full chorus shouted. Culture responds to this musical shift. People begin to seek quieter rituals. Fewer events. Slower evenings. Moments that feel intentional rather than obligatory. Music becomes a way to signal this change. A softer song marks the beginning of a calmer night. Christmas starts to feel less like a performance and more like a pause. This pause is not empty. It is full of small details. The sound of footsteps in a quiet house. The hum of a heater. A light left on in another room. Music blends with these sounds rather than competing with them. Older traditions once relied on silence to heighten meaning. Modern Christmas music learns how to coexist with silence. This coexistence makes listening more mindful. A song played quietly asks for attention. It invites presence. The listener becomes part of the moment rather than an observer. Simplicity also changes how people relate to memory. Loud, elaborate experiences can blur together. Quiet moments stand out. A simple song heard during an ordinary task can become deeply memorable. It anchors itself to feeling rather than spectacle. This is one reason simpler Christmas music resonates so strongly. It leaves space for the listener's own life to enter. Culturally, this shift reflects a desire to protect energy. Modern life is demanding. The end of the year often brings fatigue. Christmas music that offers rest rather than stimulation becomes especially valuable. Simplicity becomes a form of care. This does not mean that all Christmas music becomes quiet or understated. Variety remains. But the presence of simplicity offers balance. It provides an alternative to constant activity. People learn that they can choose which version of Christmas they engage with. Music gives them that option. This choice is empowering. It allows the season to adapt to individual needs without losing its shared identity. Christmas remains recognizable, even when experienced quietly. As this part of our story settles, imagine a single, gentle Christmas song playing in a dimly lit room. Nothing else is happening. And that is enough. In the next part, we will explore how this return to simplicity influences how people remember Christmas, shaping the way the season lingers after it has passed. For now, let the music soften. Let the moment be small. Allow yourself to rest within it, unhurried and content. Part 14. When Christmas learned how to linger. Let us move onward, softly and without haste, into a part of the story that exists just beyond the main event. The lights are still up. The music still plays. But something has shifted. Christmas is no longer approaching. It is slowly passing. This is when the season learns how to linger. Older Christmas traditions ended clearly. Specific days marked closure. Rituals concluded. Life resumed. Modern Christmas culture, shaped by extended seasons and layered meaning, fades more gradually. Music guides this gentle transition. Certain songs feel designed not for anticipation or celebration, but for reflection. They do not rush toward an ending. They sit comfortably in the in-between space. Listening to them feels like holding onto warmth as the air cools. These songs allow Christmas to stretch quietly into the days that follow. Culturally, this lingering serves a purpose. Modern life rarely allows time to process experience. Christmas, with its emotional weight, needs space to settle. Music provides that space. Hearing familiar songs after the central days can feel comforting rather than repetitive. The urgency is gone. What remains is familiarity. This familiarity helps memory take shape. As the season fades, music becomes a container for what was felt. It helps organize emotion. Joy, fatigue, gratitude, and sadness find a place to rest. This is a subtle function of modern Christmas music. It helps with emotional closure without demanding finality. People often continue to play Christmas music quietly even as decorations come down. The sound lingers longer than the visuals. Music is easier to release gradually. This gradual release reflects how people actually experience endings. Rarely all at once. more often in waves. Older traditions emphasized clear boundaries. Modern culture allows soft edges. Christmas does not stop. It dissolves. Music makes this dissolution gentle. The songs that linger are often slower, reflective, or instrumental. They invite thought without urgency. They allow the listener to remain in the season just a little longer. This is especially important for those who feel the weight of transition. The end of Christmas often coincides with the return of routine. Music eases that shift. Culturally, this lingering also speaks to a desire to hold on to meaning. Christmas represents pause, connection, and care. Letting it go abruptly can feel jarring. Music allows people to carry those qualities forward. In this way, Christmas does not truly end. It becomes integrated. A song heard later in the year can suddenly evoke the season. The feeling returns briefly. Memory activates. Music keeps Christmas available without confining it to a date. This lingering quality distinguishes modern Christmas culture from older traditions. The season is less contained, more fluid. It adapts to emotional reality. As this part of our story settles, imagine the days after Christmas. The house is quieter. Decorations are fewer. A familiar song plays softly, offering no demands. In the next part, we will explore how this lingering shapes anticipation for future seasons, and how memory and expectation begin to circle back toward the next Christmas. For now, let the music fade slowly. Not into silence, but into memory. Allow the season to rest gently where it belongs, within you. Part 15. When memory began to shape the next season. Let us continue, quietly and without urgency, into a part of the story where time begins to curve back on itself. Christmas has lingered. The music has faded into memory. And yet, something remains. A trace. A feeling that does not disappear when the season ends. This is when memory begins to shape what comes next. Older Christmas traditions looked forward through ritual. The calendar dictated when anticipation should begin. Modern Christmas culture looks forward through remembrance. What mattered last year influences what is hoped for in the next. Music carries this forward most clearly. Long after Christmas has passed, a familiar song can still surface unexpectedly. In a store, on the radio, in your own thoughts. It brings with it a brief echo of the season. That echo becomes a reference point. When the next Christmas approaches, those echoes return more strongly. Memory informs expectation. You begin to anticipate certain songs, certain moods, certain moments. This anticipation is gentle. It does not arrive all at once. It builds quietly, often without notice. Music teaches the body how to expect the season again. Hearing a Christmas song after a long absence can feel surprisingly emotional. The sound bypasses logic. It touches memory directly. This reaction reinforces the bond between music and seasonal identity. Christmas becomes something you remember before you experience it. This differs from older traditions, which emphasized preparation through action. Fasting, decorating, attending services. Modern culture prepares emotionally. Memory becomes rehearsal. Music plays this role effortlessly. A song heard again triggers not only past feeling, but imagined future feeling. You begin to picture how the next season might unfold. This imagining shapes choices. People decide which traditions to keep, which to release, and which to create anew. Music often guides these decisions. A song associated with comfort may be prioritized. One associated with stress may be avoided. Christmas becomes curated by memory. This curation is not rigid. It evolves. As lives change, so do the meanings attached to songs. Memory remains flexible. This flexibility allows Christmas culture to adapt without losing continuity. The season feels familiar but not static. Culturally, this process reflects a deeper shift. Meaning is no longer dictated solely by external structure. It is negotiated internally. People learn what the season gives them and shape it accordingly. Music offers a stable anchor within this negotiation. It holds the emotional record of past seasons. It reminds people what mattered. This does not guarantee repetition. It offers guidance. As this part of our story settles, imagine thinking about Christmas long before it arrives. Perhaps without realizing it, a certain song comes to mind. It carries with it a feeling you hope to experience again. In the next part, we will explore how this cycle of memory and anticipation influences creativity, inspiring new songs and traditions that speak to both past and present. For now, let the memory rest lightly. It does not need to be held tightly. It will return when it is time, carried quietly by the music you already know. Part 16. When new songs were written with memory in mind. Let us drift onward, calmly and without rush, into a part of the story where creation itself begins to listen backward. By now, Christmas music carries layers of memory, expectation, and emotion. Anyone who adds to it cannot ignore what already exists. New songs are no longer written into empty space. They are written into a landscape shaped by decades of sound. This awareness changes how modern Christmas music is created. Songwriters know they are not just composing a melody. They are entering a tradition that listeners hold personally. A new song must feel familiar enough to belong, and distinctive enough to matter. Memory becomes a guide. Many modern Christmas songs are designed to sound as though they have always existed. They borrow classic chord progressions. They move at unhurried tempos. They avoid sharp edges. The goal is not novelty, but integration. A new song succeeds when it feels remembered. This is a delicate balance. Too much imitation feels hollow. Too much experimentation feels out of place. The most lasting modern Christmas songs sit quietly between these extremes. They respect the emotional language of the season. Lyrics often avoid specifics that would date them. Instead, they focus on feelings that repeat year after year. Longing, warmth, return, reflection. These emotions allow the song to grow with the listener. In this way, new songs are written with future memory in mind. Creators imagine how a song might feel after 10 years. After 20. They imagine it playing in different homes, different moments, different lives. The song is built to receive memory. This intentional timelessness is uniquely modern. Older traditions became timeless by accident. Modern ones aim for it deliberately. The difference is subtle, but meaningful. Technology supports this process. Artists can study what resonates. They can hear how listeners respond. Christmas music becomes both art and conversation. Yet the most successful songs still rely on intuition. They understand that Christmas music works best when it does not demand attention. It arrives gently. It waits. This patience allows listeners to discover the song rather than be confronted by it. Over time, discovery becomes familiarity. Familiarity becomes attachment. Culture embraces these new additions slowly. Christmas music is not adopted instantly. It earns its place through repetition and resonance. A song must survive many seasons to feel essential. This gradual acceptance mirrors how memory itself works. Music that becomes part of Christmas culture does so by returning. Each year, it arrives again. Each year, it gathers more meaning. The song remains the same. The listener does not. This process continues quietly, without announcement. As this part of our story settles, imagine hearing a newer Christmas song that already feels comforting. You may not know when you first heard it. It simply feels like it belongs. In the next part, we will explore how this ongoing creation influences the future of Christmas culture, and how the season continues to evolve while carrying its past forward. For now, let the new and the remembered rest together. The music does not hurry. It knows it has time. Part 17. When the season began to look ahead. Let us continue, softly and without urgency, into a part of the story that faces forward while keeping one gentle hand on the past. Christmas has learned how to remember. It has learned how to reinvent. Now it begins to imagine what it might become. This is when the season starts to look ahead. Modern Christmas culture exists in a world that changes quickly. Technology shifts. Lifestyles evolve. Traditions that once felt stable must adapt. And yet, Christmas remains remarkably recognizable. Its core feelings persist even as its expressions shift. Music plays a quiet role in this continuity. As new generations grow up with different experiences, Christmas music adjusts to meet them where they are. Sounds reflect contemporary sensibilities. Production becomes smoother or more minimal. Voices reflect new styles. But the emotional center remains steady. This balance is intentional. The future of Christmas music is not about replacing what came before. It is about extending it. Each new song adds another thread to an already rich fabric. The season becomes layered rather than rewritten. Culturally, this forward-looking posture is gentle. Christmas does not rush into the future. It steps carefully, carrying what matters. Music helps guide this careful movement. It reminds creators and listeners alike that novelty alone is not enough. What lasts must feel rooted. At the same time, the future invites inclusion. Modern Christmas music increasingly reflects diverse experiences and voices. Different cultures, families, and ways of celebrating find space within the season's sound. This expansion does not dilute Christmas. It deepens it. The season becomes more reflective of the world it exists in. Music becomes a place where many forms of belonging can coexist. This inclusivity strengthens the season's emotional reach. Christmas looks ahead by listening more carefully. Technology will continue to change how music is made and shared. But the way Christmas music is received remains remarkably human. People still seek comfort. They still seek meaning. They still return to familiar sounds when the year grows heavy. The future of Christmas culture depends on this consistency. No matter how the medium changes, the purpose remains. Music marks time. It signals pause. It offers warmth. As this part of our story settles, imagine a Christmas song that has not yet been written. It will one day feel familiar. It will carry memories not yet formed. It will become part of someone's season without them realizing when it began. In the next part, we will explore how all of these elements come together, and how modern Christmas culture continues to weave old tradition and new expression into something quietly enduring. For now, let the future rest gently ahead of us. There is no need to hurry toward it. The music will arrive when it is ready. Part 18. When old and new finally learn to walk together. Let us drift onward, quietly and without effort, into a part of the story where the tension between past and present begins to ease. For much of this journey, Christmas has seemed to move back and forth, glancing behind itself, then ahead again. Older traditions and modern expressions have taken turns leading. Now, they learn to walk side by side. At this stage in the season's evolution, the line between old and new becomes less important. What matters is not when a song was written, but how it feels. A carol centuries old can sit comfortably beside a song released only years ago, and neither feels out of place. Music teaches us this gently. A playlist might move from something ancient and reverent to something modern and reflective without disruption. The emotional thread remains intact. Warmth. Waiting. Light in darkness. These ideas travel easily across time. This coexistence marks a quiet maturity in Christmas culture. Earlier eras often felt the need to protect tradition from change, or to declare new expressions as replacements. Modern Christmas understands that endurance does not require purity. It requires openness. Tradition is no longer something fragile. It has proven resilient. Music becomes the meeting ground where this resilience is most visible. Old melodies are not erased by new ones. They are reframed, heard differently, appreciated anew. Likewise, modern songs gain depth when placed alongside older ones. They inherit gravity. They feel anchored. Listeners move between these sounds instinctively. There is no sense of conflict. The season feels whole precisely because it contains contrast. Culturally, this blending reflects how people now relate to time. Past and present are not separate compartments. Memory lives in the now. Anticipation reaches backward as well as forward. Christmas culture mirrors this fluidity. A person might decorate with inherited ornaments while listening to a newly discovered song. They might keep an old ritual while abandoning another. The season becomes a personal tapestry rather than a fixed script. Music supports this personalization without fragmentation. It provides continuity even as details change. This harmony between old and new allows Christmas to remain meaningful across generations. There is space for reverence and for play, for quiet reflection and for lightness. No single tone dominates. The season feels balanced. As this part of our story settles, imagine hearing a familiar carol followed immediately by a modern song that feels just as comforting. There is no jolt. No adjustment needed. They belong together. In the next part, we will step back and observe the season as a whole, reflecting on what modern Christmas music reveals about how culture changes, remembers, and holds meaning. For now, let the old and the new continue walking quietly beside you, their footsteps steady, their presence reassuring. Part 19. What Christmas music quietly tells us about ourselves. Let us slow a little more as we approach the end of our journey, entering a reflective space where the season seems to look back at us in return. After walking through voices, memory, reinvention, and time, Christmas music begins to reveal something deeper. Not just about the holiday, but about the people who keep returning to it. Christmas music becomes a mirror. The way a culture sings tells us how it feels about itself. Older traditions sang of certainty, belief, and shared structure. Modern Christmas music sings of feeling, memory, complexity, and choice. Neither is superior. Each reflects the world that shaped it. What is striking is how clearly this evolution follows human need. As life became faster and less predictable, Christmas music slowed down. As communities became more scattered, songs emphasized home and togetherness. As expectations grew heavier, music softened and questioned. The season adjusted itself through sound. Christmas music listens to us, even when we think we are only listening to it. The persistence of certain themes tells us what we continue to value. Light still matters. Warmth still matters. The idea of returning, whether to a place, a person, or a feeling, remains powerful. These ideas survive every cultural shift. Modern Christmas culture does not abandon meaning. It searches for it more personally. Music allows that search to feel safe. It offers a place to feel without needing to explain. A song can hold grief without resolving it. It can hold joy without exaggeration. It can hold contradiction without discomfort. This emotional flexibility is one of the season's quiet achievements. Christmas music also reveals how much people need ritual, even when they resist structure. Playlists replace hymnals. Personal traditions replace communal ones. But the need to mark time remains. Music marks it gently. The return of familiar songs each year reassures us that time is moving in a way we can recognize. Even as life changes, something returns. Something remembers us. This reassurance is subtle, but profound. Modern Christmas music also shows us how culture learns to care for itself. By making room for quiet. By allowing reflection. By softening expectations. The season becomes a collective act of self-regulation. This was not designed. It emerged naturally. Songs that survive do so because they meet real needs. They comfort. They slow. They connect. Christmas music evolves not through trend, but through usefulness of a very human kind. As this part of our story settles, imagine stepping back and listening not to a single song, but to the season as a whole. The many voices. The many tempos. The many emotions. In the final part, we will bring this journey to a gentle close, reflecting on how Christmas music continues to offer rest, meaning, and quiet companionship year after year. For now, rest in the understanding that the season sings not just to us, but with us, learning as we do, and growing quietly alongside our lives. Part 20. The song that keeps returning. Let us arrive gently at the final part of tonight's story, not with a sense of ending, but with a sense of settling. Christmas music has traveled a long way through this journey. From shared voices in cold rooms to songs carried effortlessly through air and memory. From tradition to reinvention, from expectation to choice. And still, it continues to return. This return is the quiet heart of it all. Christmas music does not arrive as something new each year. It arrives as something familiar, carrying traces of who we have been and hints of who we are becoming. Even when new songs appear, they do not replace what came before. They take their place alongside it, waiting to gather meaning over time. The season teaches patience in this way. Older traditions trusted repetition. Modern Christmas culture rediscovers that trust, not through obligation, but through affection. Songs return because we invite them back. Because they have proven useful, comforting, honest. A Christmas song does not need to be extraordinary to endure. It needs to feel true. This is why so many songs, old and new, continue to matter. They speak softly. They do not insist. They offer companionship rather than instruction. In a world full of demands, this gentleness is rare. Christmas music becomes a place where nothing is required. You do not have to feel a certain way. You do not have to remember everything perfectly. You do not have to recreate the past. You only have to listen, or even simply allow the sound to exist nearby. This permission is one of the season's quiet gifts. Modern Christmas culture, for all its noise and visibility, has learned how to hold stillness within itself. Music makes that possible. It creates pockets of calm inside busy days. It gives shape to emotion without forcing resolution. The season no longer promises perfection. It offers presence. As we reach this final reflection, it becomes clear that Christmas music endures not because it resists change, but because it adapts to human need. It listens carefully. It adjusts its tone. It waits for us to be ready. Each year, when the songs return, they arrive with open hands. They carry memory, but they do not trap us in it. They invite us to bring our current selves into the season, just as we are. This is the quiet wisdom Christmas has learned over time. The music that fills winter nights now understands that meaning does not have to be loud. That tradition does not have to be rigid. That joy can be gentle, and reflection can be warm. As this part of the story settles into stillness, imagine the last Christmas song of the night. It fades slowly, not into absence, but into rest. The season remains, softly held. In a moment, we will step into the closing reflection. But for now, allow yourself to sit here, in the calm after the music, knowing that when the season comes again, the song will be waiting. And now, as our story gently comes to rest, we do not close it so much as set it down carefully, the way one might fold a familiar blanket at the end of a long evening. Christmas music and culture, old and new, do not truly end. They settle. They wait. They remain quietly nearby. Tonight, we have wandered through voices carried on cold air, through radios humming in dark rooms, through songs that learned how to remember, reinvent, and return. We have seen how older traditions moved slowly and deliberately, and how modern ones learned to soften a faster world. We have listened to how Christmas music changed not to replace what came before, but to hold more of what it means to be human. What lingers most is not a specific song, or a particular tradition, but a feeling. The sense that once a year, time loosens its grip. That memory is allowed to surface without explanation. That joy can be quiet, and rest can be meaningful. Modern Christmas culture often appears louder, brighter, and fuller than older traditions. And yet beneath that surface, it reaches for the same things people always have. Warmth. Belonging. A moment where nothing more is asked of us. Music has become the season's most faithful companion in this search. It adapts when words fail. It stays when gatherings end. It carries presence when people are far apart. It waits patiently for us to notice it again. And perhaps that is why Christmas songs, whether centuries old or newly written, continue to matter. They are not instructions. They are invitations. They do not demand belief or perfection. They simply offer a place to pause. As you rest now, let the sounds of the day fall away. Let the season, with all its layers and contradictions, soften into something gentle. There is nothing you need to carry forward. Nothing you need to resolve. The music will return when it is time. Until then, thank you for letting me guide you through tonight's story. You are safe to drift now, knowing that memory, tradition, and quiet comfort will be waiting when you wake again. Good night.